National FYE resources, if you're wondering what that means, it's all the stuff that we have put together, basically in service of the national FYE community. We want to make sure that there's a resource base for all of you, for what we call the national FYE community. And one of the most powerful tools for this resource base is actually our website. So have many of you been through our website? Yes. Okay, well, if you haven't, we've done quite a bit of work on the website to make it an active, robust resource space. But of course, you know, all of what I'm going to be showing you, I just want you to bear in mind that it's really been baby steps, and it's been a labor of love. I've been working on it. I've been working with my colleagues on it, getting advice from different people about how best to improve it. And, you know, the wheels move slowly, as you know, especially at institutions. Things take a long time to get together. So some of what I actually wanted, I didn't really achieve in the end, but I came to the best possible compromise. Anyway, all of which will be clear when we go through the rest of the presentation. We are a dedicated national resource center. So what does that mean? It means that these are the goals that we have tried to adhere to as much as possible: setting a scholarly agenda for South Africa's FYE community, providing resources, and importantly, creating and developing this community, making sure there's a cohesive space for us to meet through collaboration and networking. Our resource room. This really has been a labor of love for me because I oversaw this resource room from the time that it actually functioned as a construction site. The office was being constructed when I first got there, and we wanted to make sure that there was a functional space where people could come to browse through our books, to take a look at what we've got, to have a chat with other colleagues, in the future to host visiting scholars. And you know, we were lucky enough that our good friends from the NRC, we introduced you to Jennifer Koib at the keynote session yesterday. We did not introduce you to Dr. Dallin George Young. Thanks, Dallin. They gave us a really lovely donation of reports and resources, which we used to populate the very bare and empty shelves of the resource room. So I would call this resource room at the moment modest, because I have been begging, borrowing, and stealing from many, many places to make sure that the shelves are full. So we started out with this initial donation from the NRC, and we also donated half of it to the education campus of UJ at Soweto, and half of it is here with us. So we have some visitors who come along and use the resource space. We've been, it's a reference only, which means we are not librarians. It means that you get to come to B Green 11 and use the SANRC resource room, browse through it, have a chat with us, and you know, it's a little space that we have. And I'm hoping that it's a little space that's going to grow into a much larger space. So if you are at UJ and you happen to be at Bunting Road campus, Soraya, you've never visited, then please come through to B Green 11. It's a really nice space. I'm going to take you through some of what I have put together for the website, planned, hoped, and dreamed that the website would become. I call it an online platform for important FYE materials and resources. And I really wanted to be able to showcase the national FYE efforts and initiatives that are happening at South Africa's public universities. I'm hoping that it's going to really grow over the next 5 years. As I say, it's taken a lot of effort to get to this point. You know, I've often had to plan and negotiate to get the website to grow, to get the university to sort of support this. And the main point of growth that I'm hoping is going to happen is through the national pool of FYE literature. This puts an onus on all of us to be writing more, to be researching more, and to be publishing more. I want that little space on that I'm going to show you now called suggested readings and essential readings, which you'll see has a little flag next to it. I'm not really a nationalistic person, but yes, we've got a little flag next to each of the papers and the reports that are uniquely South African. And I'm hoping that we'll see much more flags in the future. This is our website. Okay, before I get to that, I'm just going to quickly pull up the website. This is what it looks like. Oh, I can't do that. You'll see we have a gallery. We have archives. Yes? Oh, I need to. Okay. We've got a gallery, we've got archives, which speak to all of our present events, past events. We've got a dedicated conference page, which allows you to go on and have a little space where it's only about the conference. You can register, you can submit your abstracts. We've got a tab called projects, which is going to be populated in a much more robust fashion in the future. Our national orientation campaign project, all the resources for that, all the history behind the project is obviously hosted under this tab. I'm going to speak to National FYE Month later. Now we have this very interesting tab here, or interesting to me, that's called resources, which is all the outputs that the SANRC itself puts together. We have something called the FYE Thought Series. So this is a publication series that belongs to the SANRC, and we have 2 publications at the moment, 3 publications in the Thought Series, and I'm hoping this is going to grow. In fact, I've been promised one by the end of 2019, which will take us to 4 Thought Series. This is huge in terms of sort of our growth since 2015. Well, the first Thought Series was a paper that was edited by Andre called The First Year Experience in South Africa, A Good Practices Guide. This brought together case studies from 5 universities in South Africa about FYE. And then Thought Series 2, my Thought Series called The First Year Experience in South Africa, A National Perspective. And Thought Series 3, by Professor Ian Scott, Designing the South African Higher Education System for Student Success. All of these reports now are online. So we had a few copies downstairs and they sort of vanished in a flash, but you know, they're online here. We also have our newsletters on here, Umsindo, making a noise, making the FYE community felt and heard. And this has been sort of a very new effort. We encourage people to submit articles to us. I've been approaching people for the most part, but it would be great if people wanted to highlight some of the work that they're doing through our newsletter. How many of you have read the newsletter? There is definitely room for growth there. Then we go on to something which I find intensely interesting, and this is an initiative that we call suggested readings. Now, there's a bit of a history behind this. My original vision was supported by the University of Pretoria. In fact, the library services at the University of Pretoria. My idea was to build a searchable database of FYE resources and materials. And in fact, the University of Pretoria used its information science students, I think about 6 or 7 of them, and they gave them a kind of a project to do, and they told them that to build an online platform for the SANRC. And these young people went ahead and built quite a magnificent online interface. Unfortunately, for different reasons, 90% of which are technical, we were unable to use that original space. But, you know, the efforts of the library services at the University of Pretoria are acknowledged and greatly appreciated. We weren't able to use it, so my next best alternative was then to do something called suggested readings, which is a very modest sort of compromise. But, you know, it's hoped that the space of suggested readings is going to grow. I want to acknowledge Celine here. Celine is a young student. Well, she's just gotten her master's, but Celine this has also been a labor of love for her. She's a budding academic, and she's been caretaking the space of suggested readings with as much love as I have. So, you know, we've organized it according to keywords: student success, orientation, diversity, race, transformation, the role of parents in FYE, teaching and learning, student finances in FYE. If you click on any one of these, you're going to find that there is some really interesting reading out there. And we can link you to where to find it. So, if you would like a nice little reading space on the internet, a dedicated FYE reading space, you know, you can come here. And what is going to happen to the space is that it's going to grow, obviously. We are going to be regularly updating the suggested readings. I'm just going to go back to... orientation. We were talking ourselves to death about orientation yesterday. And I would really encourage all those interested people who came to the orientation session yesterday to draw on some of this literature. And in fact, a lot of what informed my paper that I presented yesterday on orientation is drawn from this literature. You can see there are no South African flags on here. And Mzansi is not represented. So, you know, there's a lot of room for this wonderful, vibrant orientation community that came to support that session yesterday to write up all the interesting and amazing experiences and the ideas that you presented yesterday. So, I am not going to linger much longer on the suggested readings. I hope you enjoy them. And please give us feedback on whether it's useful or not. And please also let us know when you've written something interesting or published something so that we're also aware of it and you know, can host it on the space. Just going to... National FYE Month. Just excuse me. This was an initiative that we piloted this year. We had a very limited response to National FYE Month. This was originally Andre's idea. and sort of I took it and I ran with it. We talked about a month-long initiative, which we hoped South Africa's universities would just grab and run with. A month of activism, a month of education, a month of awareness raising that would coincide with the national conference at the end of the year. And the idea is that it's not just aimed at the academic community, but as I spoke about at the orientation session yesterday, the entire South African public. We asked institutions to talk to us about what they're doing. We asked them to host events, engage in acts of particular acts of activism. We gave you some examples of what you could do at your institutions, but also in your communities, your workplaces, at home, just to make the world a bit of a better place for National FYE Month. And our idea, this is the 2019 badge, but the idea is that in 2020, there will be an institution that will be awarded this badge for top institutional participation. We had a very limited response this year. But those institutions that did participate, I am greatly appreciative of all the efforts. I'm just going to mention TUT. I'm going to mention UNISA, Stellenbosch University. Thank you very much. All the Stellenbosch people know that they hosted an event. And I'm also going to mention the University of the Free State. If I've left anyone else out, please forgive me. So I'm hoping next year that we'll actually be able to award this badge, and that there'll be a lot more institutional participation than we had in 2020. We asked people to pledge, to make an online pledge, which is really, someone asked me, what is the point of a pledge? And that's a good question. And I think some people were also, they felt the pledge involved some sort of money or some sort. And no, it's not. It's just a kind of it's visible online. It's a gesture of support for the first year experience. And I would encourage as many people as possible to please pledge. It takes less than 10 seconds, Celine. And it doesn't involve any money. So please do pledge. We've got 90 pledges so far, and the goal was much more than that. So please go ahead and take your few seconds to pledge. I just want to quickly, I'm going to go through something called FYE at my institution. It's a piloted initiative, but there's going to be lots more discussion about this. I need to give Andre some time as well to go through what we call essential readings. So if we rush through this, it's not because we want to quickly get through it. It's just because in the interest of time, I'm going to keep discussing this with all of you as we go on. So this is a pilot project called FYE at my institution. What is it about? It's about showcasing the national FYE landscape. It means, at a glance, we should be able to see what is going on nationally at all of our institutions. But what do you mean? What is it? I hear a lot of people asking, what is this about? And some of the questions that I've gotten is, why are you doing this? How's the page going to be organized? Who's going to organize the page? Why did you put my institution first? Or why did you put my institution last? Are we not important? Who gets to choose what's used on the page? How can we ensure that the content that we send you is actually going to be used responsibly? What about our brand? Who's going to approve the content? Final version of the page. All very valid questions. And what I can assure you is that there will obviously be a set of protocols that governs this page. This page is a dedicated page. This is what it's going to look like. FYE at my institution, showing all the institutions. I've just prepared a sample. I'm going to need some help here just to get back out of this, please. Just to the internet. Okay, so I just, there we go. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. It's an extended, sorry. Just
Is it extended? Okay. This is what the page is likely to look like. Now I'm going to show you a sample page from the University of Johannesburg. We've organized it according to articles, videos, gallery, presentations, which means if you click on articles, you're going to find an article that you can download. If you click on videos, there will be a range of videos that you can click on. Gallery. Yes, Andre, right there. Gallery, but I would encourage all that send us pictures for the gallery to include titles so that we know what they're about. But of course, we'll organize all of this content. So it's, well, I'll just take you through the last one. Presentations. You have the opportunity to put relevant presentations on the space. So this is hopes for what this page could look like. And it will need participation from the institutions. We'll need, obviously, to have content that we'll be able to organize. But this offers a very powerful tool for, understanding what FYE is about, understanding the national FYE landscape, but also deepening FYE at all the institutions. This gives the FYE a living presence. If it's able to be highlighted online, we're able to see at a glance what's being done, and hopefully it gives a nudge to some of the institutions that maybe haven't been doing as much as they could be doing. So we're hoping that the response to this page will be robust, and that people will send us the right kind of the kind of content that we'd like to use on this page. Let's go back. So I'm sure there are lots of questions. About FYE at my institution. There are lots of questions, but we will take them and address them later. I'm just going to give Andre some time now to go through essential reading.
Right. Good morning, everybody. As Ansela has pointed out this morning, the National Resource Centre was created to be a resource centre. And that is something that is being figured out as we create the center more and more. And you were pointed to a number of resources from the center itself. I want to just point you to two things. If you're working in higher education in South Africa, I want to point you to two readings that I think you should have a look at. There are definitely more of them, but I've just selected two for this morning. Okay, so I want to just show you, and I know at the back you can't really see what's going on the screen. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that this is made available to you on the website as well. So you don't have to go and look for it, which I think will make your lives a bit easier. So let me just go back to the internet. I'm going to show you both of them on the internet. Okay. Now, the two, we're in a unique position in South Africa when compared to our colleagues in the States, for example. If Jennifer or Dallin want to know what's going on across the country in higher education, it is an almost impossible task to put all of that together. Now, of course, they've got hundreds of universities. We don't have that. But because of the central nature of our higher education system and because it's government funded, a lot of that data is collected on an annual basis by the Department of Higher Education and Training. And many of you would never have seen that data. And I think if you're going to be working with academics, which all of us will be to some degree, the way that you will ever convince them is not going to be through an emotional argument. I think one of the mistakes we've made in academic development in the past is that we arrive with a box of tissues and we want to sing Kumbaya and, you know, be sorry for the students. Whereas, and I think that's right. We should care for the students. But I think when we work with academics, we need to bring the data, because they find that much more convincing, point number one, and it's much tougher to ignore if they are confronted with the data. Okay, and as a result, I want to point you to two resources that will provide you with some of that data. And at the back, I'm sorry, I don't think anybody behind table 3 will be able to see, really. You're welcome to come to the front, but you can go and have a look at this. The first one I want to point out to you, the Department of Higher Education and Training, in the past 4 or 5 years, for the first time in our history, have started publishing proper cohort studies. So there's a document that you should look at. It was published in March 2019. That's how fresh it is. If you sniff a bit in the air, you should be able to still smell it. Okay, that's how fresh it is. March 2019 is when this was published. It's available on the DHET website, and it's called 2000 to 2016 First Time Entering Undergraduate Cohort Studies for Public Higher Education Institutions. Clearly, if you can't get to sleep tonight, download it, read it. It'll take you 3 minutes, you'll be gone. You can just hear from that title, you know, it's not going to be reading that you want to do just for entertainment's sake. I want to point out two things in this. This is a very interesting cohort study. When they released the first one that I saw about 3-4 years ago, they made the mistake of putting UNISA and the contact universities together, and that just skewed it completely. And they still have, in a number of instances, where they give you a national view. What you must know is that UNISA is huge. It is massive. Okay. And as a result, when you add it to the national data sample, you get a skewed picture because UNISA has its own very specific challenges and its own situation. And in this one, I think they've done a much better job of disaggregating. I want to point out two things, and I'm going to read this not because you can't read, but because the people at the back might not be able to see. I just want to take you through the table of contents to show you what type of analysis they've done. That is, if they allow me to see it. Okay, this is a PDF document. There we go, come on. March 2019, we just want to see page 2. Come on. Now it's not showing. While it's trying to load, I hope. Okay, well, let's see if it takes a few seconds. Okay. So maybe what I should do is just grab my laptop where it's open. So we don't waste your time. Okay? So I'm just going to tell you the table of contents very quickly, colleagues, because I think this will give you an indication of how nicely this was analyzed. Okay, there we go. So the type of sub-analyses, you've got a national cohort analysis, firstly, which gives you the national picture, and they give it to you with UNISA included, and they give it to you as contact institutions on their own. And then listen to some of the other sub-analyses. I'm just reading you the main heading. So they've got the national cohort studies for all undergraduate degrees and diplomas in contact and distance mode is one of the main headings. Then they've got the next one, number 3, national cohort studies for 3-year diplomas. Only 3-year diplomas nationally. What's going on with throughput rates? The next one they've got is national cohort studies for 3-year degrees. The next one is cumulative national dropout and throughput rates for degrees with minimum duration of 4 years or more. I can already hear the snoring from the back. You can see this is going to put you to sleep, right? Okay, but it's interesting. So let me skip a few and just tell you some of the others that I think are really good for us to look at. They've got foundational provision. They've got throughput for foundational provision, qualifications that are extended, in other words. Then they've got NSFAS. They've got students with NSFAS, without NSFAS being compared with each other, okay, nationally, so you can see what's going on. And a variety of other sub-analyses. This is a document for anybody working in student success in South Africa that I think you should access. And you should then also ask your own institutional data miners to help you with the institutional data so that you can compare yourself nationally. Okay? Because I think that's how you position yourself with that sort of data. Maybe just one bit of information for all of you working in the first year, because there is not only bad news in this. I think we've gotten so used to bad news that we only hear the bad news. But if you go to page 19 of this report, they've got a very interesting table where they say the national percentage dropout after year 2. National percentage dropout in year 2. That's what the first year experience is really trying to address, right? If you looked at the 2000 cohort, in the year 2000, 23% of students entering the system dropped out by the second year, 23%. And that went up to the wonderful year of 2009, which was probably one of our worst years. But the highest that ever goes here is 25.6%. Year 1 to year 2 dropouts, 25.6% nationally. That's with a 17 or 18% participation rate. So we skim off the top 18%, and then 25% have dropped out by the end of their first year. That's why a meeting like this one is so important. If you go and look at the 2016 cohort, that's down to 12.6%. We've halved it, colleagues, halved it by 2016 nationally, and it was on 13% in 2015. It's a very nice gradual drop. We're keeping more students into their second year, which is something we would want to see. The next table actually shows you graduation in minimum time as well. Well, actually, it shows you after 3, after 4, after 5 years, but I can't show it to you because it's not showing. But this is a document you should look at. It's on the DET website. If you go onto the DET website, at the top there are tabs. One of them says higher education. If you click on that and you scroll down, there are some hyperlinks. Don't look at those. If you scroll down further, there are some PDF documents. It's one of those. But please make sure you've got the newest one. That's the 2019 one. I've got it on a little memory stick here. If you're struggling to find it, just come and ask me. I'll give it to you. The second document, and then I'm done because it's time for Dallin and Jennifer to start, is just a white paper that was released in 2013. So as a higher education sector, we are governed by our National Department of Higher Education and Training. And 1 minister ago, which might in a week from now be 2 ministers ago, Minister Nzimande brought out a new white paper. This was before fees must fall. This was before a lot of stuff happened. So this document might very well, should in my view, be updated within the next few years. But this is the newest one we've got. And that's the 2013 white paper for post-school education and training. If you want to understand where we're going as a system, this is essential reading. This is where our national government is telling us they are planning to go. It gives you some backward-looking stuff, and then it gives you some forward-looking stuff. My view is if you read this document, if half of what is in this document actually happens, it's going to be a very exciting place to work. Okay, so I just wanted to point you to those two. Ansela, are you coming back, or am I done? Okay, so please come and speak to Ansela, come and speak to Celine, come and speak to Lebu, Tapelu from the National Resource Center. If you want to look more at what they've got, go and look at their website. You're welcome to come and talk to me too. Go and look at the DET system. I've got all of these documents on my computer, and I'll gladly just give them to you on a memory stick if you want them. And they will be put online on the website as well. Okay, thank you very much, colleagues.